Welcome, everybody. Today we're joined by Issy Watson, who is somebody that I've been following for a long time. I know a little bit about Izzy's story as an athlete, but I'm looking forward to hearing about her health journey and what she has to share. So, welcome, Izzy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Let's kick things off with the typical question, the standard start, which is, how did you get interested in nutrition?
Yeah, I've been in athletics my whole life, probably since I was 3, I think. I got put into gymnastics and lacrosse. My dad was a big hockey player, so it just kind of ran in our family. And then growing up, I always ate what I thought was pretty healthy, like vegetables, but it was always typical like pasta and stuff before games. And my parents did the best they could. They were busy, 3 kids, right? So it's just kind of feed them, get out the door, go to the next sport. So kind of when I was like 13, I actually have a mini documentary on my YouTube that explains a little bit, but I got pretty sick, like probably when I was 12. My stomach just kind of started hurting me a lot, and food was upsetting me a lot. Um, Eventually lost a lot of weight just because I couldn't eat certain things, I wasn't absorbing certain things. And then fast forward to the year when I started high school, about a month in, I just kept getting sicker and sicker. So we were back and forth with the doctor, and then I actually had to go to the hospital to see kind of what was up. And then I was hospitalized for 5 weeks. So,
5 weeks, geez.
um, yeah, so it was tough too, eating all the hospital foods because, your stomach's already upset, and then they're giving you all these processed things. So when I got out, they didn't really come to a conclusion. There was a bit of fluid around my heart, but they were kind of more just concerned about getting my weight back up. And then I was kind of left on my own. So after that, pretty much like the reason I really got into nutrition was I was just that hospital food. It really just, after that of 5 weeks, it was insane the amount of processed food they gave us. So I was like dedicated to learning more about it, kind of taking my life into my own hands and figuring out like food is medicine, right? So just kind of cleaning up my diet that way. And then over the years since I was 13, it's just been progressing, and I've been learning more about it, to the point where I became a certified holistic nutritionist. And just really, nutrition is my main passion. I mean, fitness is too, but food is at the base of the pyramid for me.
Did you ever find
Yeah.
out why you were hospitalized? What it was?
Um, yeah, so it was, like I said, the fluid around my heart. I did have some Raynaud's in my feet and my hands, but I think that was more just from the weight loss. And after that, it was like my stomach was doing a bit better. Um, and then it was just flare ups here and there. And then just constant trips to the hospital and doctors year after year. And then finally, like probably like a couple years ago, it was colitis. So
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah. And you've got a Guinness World Record. What's that in? What did you do?
Yeah. So about 3.5 years ago, I did the most chest to ground burpees in 1 hour for
Oh, really?
females. I don't know why
How
that.
many?
It was 829. So
829 in an hour.
average, yeah, averaged about like I think 14 point something every minute for an hour,
Solid.
which is crazy. But yeah, during the pandemic, I knew a couple people from the town where I went to university. They had done it, so I was kind of just bored during the pandemic, and then I eventually just started training for it and went for it.
Nice. Does
Yeah.
the record still stand?
I believe so. If I think if somebody has beaten it, then I do want to do it again, but I haven't looked recently, so it's pretty cool even to say like you were once a Guinness World Record holder. So
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
lot of and burpees are so brutal. Is it like at the end of the burpee, are you putting your hands up in the air, or do you just need to be sort of standing up straight? What's the rule?
Yeah, the standards they had specifically for the Guinness World Records, it was the burpee I chose. It was you had to just stand up. Your shoulders had to be like completely straight, so your back, everything had to be totally straight.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom, you had to like splay your hands out,
Oh,
like
right.
in like
That.
a T.
Yeah.
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 So it was they were pretty strict on the standards, and we actually had to videotape it all and send it in because otherwise you have to pay like thousands and thousands of dollars for a judge to come
Yeah. Yeah.
and long process, but
That makes sense.
worth it.
Yeah. So what's
Yeah.
happening athletics wise at the moment? Because I see on your Instagram page you're always cycling, running, swimming,
Yeah. So right now, I'm training for an Ironman. So the
full length
goal was to
Ironman.
do the goal was to do a full, but recently I'm thinking about doing a half first, just as like kind of like a training practice one, because I got some knee injuries last year, so I don't want to like do the full thing and have to pull out because I can't run anymore. So yeah, that would be end of July. I'd do the half and then hopefully a full in the fall. So
Mm.
yeah.
And how does keto carnivore fit into your training? How do you make it work without carbs, or do you include carbs? How do you do it?
Yeah, it's really up and down for me. The last like 3.5 years now, I've pretty much been either below or at 50 grams of carbs a day. Recently, I've been like trying to go a bit like 75, 100, just like pretty much during my training, I'll have it or around, but I honestly don't really feel a huge difference. So it's interesting to see how, I mean, yeah, it can give you like a minimal boost. But yeah, like last year I trained for a 50-mile ultra, and the whole time I was pretty much carnivore. And then come race day, I just had some carbs every hour.
Do you think
But
you need to do that when you're competing? If you're not like considering you've done all that training without the carbs?
yeah, it is an interesting topic. Like,
Mm.
I think you can kind of compare the carbs during races like a extra super fuel. So yeah, like you can tap into both stores, because I find the carbs helps me a little bit more mentally. Just kind of like, the last thing I want to do is like eat blocks of tallow during a race, right? So carbs are just kind of like quicker to get into me for calories. And me, I'm a smaller athlete anyway, so it's not like I have like, I mean, we all have a lot of fat stores, but like, just physically, I don't have a ton of fat on my body. So I don't know. It's a really
Mm.
weird topic, and I think it's still so fresh
Yeah.
that, I mean, I had like a keto carnivore coach for that ultra, and she just recommended that I have the carbs during the race. So I just kind of was following the plan. And it was
Yeah.
my first one, so I didn't want to put my body into something like really unknown. And yeah.
Yeah. I think it's definitely an interesting topic because you've got people who are more hardcore and they'll do carnivore all the time, or keto essentially, and then they might eat a bit of fat during the race, or they'll just do the whole thing fasted. Um, but yeah, there's still a lot of athletes like yourself who don't want to risk going into competition, you know, and not have any carbs. We were talking about this at the Carnivore Live conference in Melbourne about a few weeks ago, and like there was an AFL player, it's like Australian football, and he was explaining that he'd love to do carnivore 100% strict and fully experiment with it, but he's a professional athlete and he doesn't want to risk what might happen or having a few bad games. So he still has, I think he has white rice. I suppose maybe it's similar with you. I mean, would you look to in your training sessions, do you train for more than an hour, or what's the longest period of time that you train for?
Yeah, my swims range from like an hour to an hour and a half, same with my bikes.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, so honestly, my swims in the morning, I usually do fasted. I pretty much just have some MCT oil before just to help like kick your body into ketosis a little bit faster.
Yeah.
And plus, I can't like eating before swimming, it just doesn't
No.
sit well with me. So, yeah, and I feel like my swimming's just been improving like so much since when I first started. And even like I did a hour and a half bike ride today, and halfway through I had some MCT oil, but I just kind of I don't really want the carbs all the time, right? Because
Mm.
I'll use them like strategically. Maybe if I'm doing like a higher intensity training session, I'll have a little bit more, but it's usually only ever like small amounts of white rice or honey, but that's about it.
Yeah, sure. And the colitis, is that coming back? Is that a constant battle or are you on top of it? What's happening there?
It's pretty calm. Sometimes I'll just go through a bit of flare-ups just randomly, maybe just mental stress and stuff like that, but I'm still kind of being referred to different GI doctors just because my liver enzymes are quite elevated and they have for a couple years. I got like an MRI recently and it showed one of like my liver ducts were slightly narrowed, so maybe that could be causing like the intestinal inflammation and pain, which makes sense, but it's still like I'll probably be getting another colonoscopy soon, but it's still kind of up in the air. So,
Mm.
yeah.
How has carnivore or changing your nutrition affected the colitis?
Oh, like insane. Like I obviously started carnivore for a reason, right? Like there was just a point in my life where I was like tired of being bloated, just stomach pain, like just emotionally, right? Gut brain connection. I was just like crying because I was just in so much pain.
Mm.
And then like that January 1st or whatever, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna start. And then it took me a while to adjust.
How did you know
Um,
the carnivore was a good treatment for autoimmune?
oh, I actually read Carnivore Code by
Paul
Paul
Saladino.
Saladino. And it like kind of blew my mind, right? Because it was
Mm.
like when you're so fresh to it all, like I'm sure you had that point too in your life where you're like, what?
Yeah,
So
100%.
it was like vegetables are bad for you. So I seriously just eliminated all my vegetables and I felt so much more clear. Like I remember to this day, certain workouts I had, like I just finished and I was like, that felt fantastic.
Yeah.
And I just, everything kept improving. And like a lot of my recent races, they've been done either fasted or just running off fat as fuel. And I've gained healthy weight back. Like I was
Mm.
always underweight. And it's just makes you feel more energized and like alive. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
the mental clarity, and then you can kind of once you feel it, you start to move. I think you just naturally start to move towards that, and you
Yeah.
know sort of when you veer off track and you put other things in, you get the instant reaction,
Yeah.
and
And I I don't crave carbs after a workout either. It's like I remember last year I had a 3-hour training run when I was training for my ultra. I just like wanted a bowl of ground beef so bad after.
mm.
I was like, that's all I want. Like your body just starts to crave the fat,
Mm.
and there's
Yeah.
obviously reasoning behind it. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a positive reinforcement loop. Like when you have that fatty meat or the fatty steak, you just think, okay, well, that's what I want. I know I'm going to feel great when I have that. I know it's going to taste good. I just want to eat that.
yeah.
So talk to me about what some of your meals look like in and around training.
Yeah, so like I said, it's kind of go through like weeks where I'm like really low carb, and then weeks where my high carb would be like 75 grams, which is still pretty low. But usually in the morning, like I said, I'll pretty much do fasted. Sometimes I'll have some like bone broth with some MCT oil. Um, and then after, it's usually like a big bowl of ground beef with cooked in tallow. Lately, I've been on an olive oil kick just because it's like high in polyphenols, so it's good for like the extra inflammation from all my exercise. So I try to do some of that. Um, Lunch, I do like the Equip Foods protein powder. It's just quick and easy. If I'm working out, like doing my strength training right after, I don't want to have a big meal. So I'll add that maybe with like a teaspoon to a tablespoon of honey
And is
and some
that
more coconut
that
oil.
protein powder, is that made from like the actual meat or something rather than,
I think so, yeah.
yeah, I think it is
Yeah,
from the
it's
whey.
actually really good, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've never had the flavored, but I'm sure it's a little too sweet for me. And then, yeah, most meals, like I'll eat like 4 times a day, sometimes five, but it's just mostly like centered around protein, fat, and if I'm having carbs, it's just like a splash of honey or some cream of rice, but
Yeah,
that's
right.
about it.
Who do you follow and who do you get information from as a ketogenic athlete?
Um, I mean, I've been doing it for a while now that it's kind of just automatic, but obviously I follow like Sean Baker, Anthony Chafee, Dr. Kiltz. He's awesome. I was on his podcast
Oh,
too
wait.
not that
Nice.
long ago. Um, but yeah, I just kind of I follow Dave Asprey a lot too. He's kind of like he was a big guy in the keto movement. So him and his bulletproof diet, it's kind of nice because he's a big advocate of like using MCT oil and butter and tallow and just grass-fed meats. So I really like his content. Obviously yourself, but yeah, once you do it for a while, it just kind of becomes automatic. And the simpler you keep your diet, the easier it is, right? I find that's the best part of doing carnivore or keto because it's just like you have basically 3 to 5 ingredients in your meal and you don't have to think about what to prepare. Like, that's the biggest thing that I think I like about it is I would always
Mm.
in the past just freak out and be like, oh, I don't have a sweet potato cooked. I don't have like my oatmeal, right? Like it's easy.
Much more simple. Basically, no cleaning up. I mean,
Yeah.
you just wipe the pan down or leave the pan, and
Hmm.
you're good to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very freeing.
Yeah.
What do you say to people who still believe in the old carb loading dogma?
It's so hard because I feel like it's either you believe in carbs and that's the only thing you believe in, or you believe in low carb and that's the only thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was always like in the middle. I never was like super crazy high carb. I was always moderate growing up. I mean, not when I was a kid, but like it's just I always say even on my social media, like just experiment, you know? It's like you never know if something's not working for you. Just try because you can always go back to your old ways. Like it's not going to hurt you. Like me,
Mm.
I was so scared of trying. Like before I was like, am I doing the right thing? Like how am I going to I was just so scared and I delayed it probably a few more months than I would have wanted to. But once I started, I was like, okay, there's a reasoning to this and just all the information out there now. Like, just experiment. And you can even see like a lot of high level athletes now. I'm sure you've seen it too. Like, they're on the verge of diabetes, and that's
Yeah,
like
big time.
not healthy. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's one thing, sure, have some carbs during your training session, but then to pound like another 200 300 grams after, I don't think that's really necessary. Like, yeah. And people will say, oh, well, you don't see elite athletes that are carnivore. It's like because this information is still so fresh
Yeah.
that a lot of people are still transitioning
Mm.
and you see all these elite athletes getting sicker. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we are seeing some elite athletes popping up, particularly like in rugby, for example. Um, Other kind of field sports, there's a decathlete who's carnivore. There's some endurance athletes who are carnivore. We'll definitely see more and more. But as you say, it's new information. I mean, we were still brought up on the carb load before a meal, before a match. That was very much the way to go. And as you say, we're seeing professional athletes become diabetic and become very sick and have a lot of visceral fat. Even though they might look lean on the outside, they've actually got a lot of fat inside them. That's very
Mm.
unhealthy. And you can get away with a lot when you're training all the time. Training lowers your blood glucose levels. So you can really, and it can help clear out insulin, I believe. So you can get away with a lot. And also like even for mental health things. Like I know personally growing up, you'd always feel so much better after exercising, so much better after a run and clearing these things out of your system. But when athletes retire and they don't have the time to train, or their body breaks down and they can't train for an hour every single day, that's when they start to realize, oh no, this lifestyle that I've been living is not good. I saw something yesterday that was like one of the top rugby league players here in Australia, in the off season, was drinking 18 diet cokes a day. And it's like, how much crap are you putting into your body? And sure, it might not be sugar, but those artificial sweeteners have a very similar effect on your body as sugar. And, in some ways they're worse and more addictive. I mean, they're clearly addictive because he has to have 18 a day. This things like that are going to have repercussions when this guy stops training in an elite environment every single day. Um, Things will catch up with him.
Yeah, and it's so hard because people like you can't win. Like some people will just be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you need carbs, your adrenals are going to tank." And then you have people that are like thriving on no carb. It's like everybody's so individual that you just have to find what works for you. So if like somebody's doing carnivore, like don't bash on them for not eating carbs. Like they ultimately do what they want. And same with like people that are high carb, like you can only try to help them so much, but they're not going to listen to you most likely. So people have to kind of be their own advocate and do their own research. And, blood work shows a lot, like the in depth blood work, like get it checked regularly.
Yeah.
Going to show if something's off. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, my most recent podcast was with the guy called Bradley Marshall, who you've probably seen him on Instagram. He suffered with severe eczema even from when he was a baby, and the only thing that made it go away was a strict carnivore, or more like a strict lion diet, because he can't have dairy. Um, and he sort of fell down the carbohydrate rabbit hole recently because of Paul Saladino, and he thought, okay, I'll start having a lot of fruit and a lot of honey. And he went and got a blood panel done after having blood panels done on carnivore, and he saw his liver enzymes go through the roof, and he saw his cholesterol markers start to get really mixed up. His triglycerides were getting higher and higher, and he's a very sort of analytical style person, and he just thought, okay, well, you know, this is undeniable. I can see that things are really moving in the wrong direction. I need to go back to a carnivore diet. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting to see for you to do your blood panels with more carbohydrates or with less. And, same with
Yeah.
me to continue getting them done as I do carnivore for a longer period of time.
Yeah, and like the longer I just keep doing it, like actually my liver enzymes are getting better and
Yeah, that's
better.
good.
Like the longer I do it, like I get blood work like almost once a month just because of all the autoimmune stuff I have. So they want to like keep track of it just to come to like a final conclusion. And it's like I've just noticed everything just keeps getting better and better. Um, and yeah, cholesterol might be a little bit high, but if you're metabolically healthy, like I'm exercising like crazy, it's not a concern to me. And yeah, it's just so much mixed things out there about which diet is best, but
Yeah.
ultimately just do whatever feels better for you.
Yeah. Is your what is your like what's your ambition with the athletic stuff with competing? Is it a passion? Do you want to become a professional? Like what's your goals?
I mean, yeah, it would be great to be a professional athlete. I always just try to do some sort of crazy goal once a year.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
I mean, once it was a half marathon, just randomly one day. I did the burpees. Last year was a 50-mile ultra. This year's Ironman. So
Nice.
it's kind of like I want to do a longer ultra down the road. So I'm just kind of hopping around to see kind of what sparks my interest the most. But I mean, a lot of people want to be professional athletes, but it's hard to get there. But I just hope that I can prove to people and to myself that like you can do things that people never thought were possible, especially eating a way that people didn't think was possible of doing as an athlete
Mm.
too. So I can never see myself being a high carb athlete. I'll always be low carb, just for all the benefits. And I just don't think my autoimmune would handle all those carbs too well. So you kind of have to balance health and performance. So one thing might suffer, but I think this diet has just been like amazing.
Hmm.
That's
That's
it.
good.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Izzy Watson, great to have you on. Good to hear your story, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, maybe we can do this again sometime.
Exactly, that would be good. Maybe after you nail the Ironman.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, be curious to see how you go, and it'd be cool if the fact that you can swim for an hour and a half and you don't need any carbohydrates makes me
Yeah,
think that
it's
maybe you can do that with the Ironman as well. Because I mean, carbohydrates can be inflammatory, or they are inflammatory. And I know a lot of athletes they take anti-inflammatories while they're competing. It's like you've clearly got so
yeah.
much chaos happening inside that you have to take that while you're running, or
Yeah, and that was one thing last year, the ultra, it literally wrecked me. Like I screwed up my knees that are still bad. I broke my foot, so it's like
ugh,
I mean, I did throw myself into something pretty quick, but at the same
yeah,
time, the amount of inflammation in my body after from the amount of carbs I had, like I didn't calculate how many, but it was probably like 300 to 500 grams of carbs, which my body was only used to having like 50 to 75. So
yeah, geez,
like my legs were like just massive. So after that, I didn't have a carb for like weeks. I was
yeah,
like, I can't, and it helps with my healing. So the one thing that's crazy to me is people always say like, "Oh, I'm gonna cut out sugar this month," and they start to feel better, but then they just don't see it as a long term thing, so they add it back in. Their problems come back. So it's like, whether it be for their January goal, they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna not have sugar, but I'm just gonna go back to my regular way after," and then all their problems come back. So I don't know, you have to really experiment. Like, if you notice something's causing you the inflammation and pain, then it's
don't
a
do it.
sign you should be having it. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with experimenting, and a carnivore or a keto or a low carb diet is an experiment. People experiment with putting in honey and fruit. I don't recommend doing that, but a lot of people do, and they find out for themselves whether that works for them. So yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
I've seen that sort of message in your content a bit before, where it's like, I'm doing what works for me. You do what works for you. Why don't you
Yeah.
experiment? You've got one life, so try and work it out. And yeah, the thing is, carnivore does work long term for a lot of people, and it does work for people doing endurance and elite athletics. So if you feel great doing carnivore and you're getting good results and you're not inflamed and you can go all day, which you can when you're in ketosis, like you can just go all day, and almost the longer you go, the better you feel. Um, I mean, why not? You know,
Yeah, exactly. And I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, it's just kind of crazy that people like, especially you never see like carnivores go back to vegan and
Mm.
then but you see a lot of vegans go carnivore. So
Yeah,
it's
I'm yet to find a carnivore who's gone vegan. I don't think they
like I
exist.
don't just wake up one day and be like, I just think I'm gonna just go buy vegetables and no more meat. Like, no, So yeah, I'm excited to see where the carnivore movement will
Mm.
go. Um, and with that being said, like you don't have to treat it like a cult. Like
Yeah,
it's just
100%. Yeah, it's just
diet, and the more you stress about, like, say you cheated once, like the more you stress, the more that stress is just gonna cause more inflammation. So just kind of move on, get back to what you were doing, and it happens. And even like the whole carbohydrate thing, like a lot of carnivores do have dairy. Well, there's carbs in dairy. So what's the difference if like somebody like me who can't really have dairy has a bit of honey? I'm still getting the same amount of carbs as somebody else, right? So yeah, it's a carb in a different form, but I also am training like this week I was training 16 hours a week. So it's like a lot of people that are carnivore might be a little bit more sedentary. So and they're just working on healing more. So everybody's different.
mm, awesome. Izzy Watson, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.